Hey guys, Andy here at Greenergy. Uh, on a day where I stopped in at Harbor Freight, I've noticed that there were two different uh, Predator 3500s. On the outside, they sort of look the same, but I guess I purchased two of them, and to kind of give comparison of what's the difference amongst these two. They are a little bit different, but they're labeled the same. The UPC code is quite different, actually. So in today's video, I like to showcase the insides of these two generators and what makes them slightly different. They're both labeled as Predator 3500 from the Harbor Freight store, but if you notice, just right off the bat, the battery location is in the two different spots. So you got one on the right and you got one on the left. This one on the left has always been the standard 3500 Predator 3500 that's been selling, and this is quite right here is quite different. As I looked in the box, the specs are the same and everything else. I do have the box for these two generators, but I guess in the second part of this video, I'll bring out the boxes and show the part numbers and the specs on them, and to kind of show you guys what you'd be expecting for if you do purchase a Predator 3500. They may be a little bit different, but Harbor Freight doesn't really advertise that they are different. So I'm going to get in depth and showcase what makes these slightly different, which actually is quite interesting. Before we get further, I'd like to make a short introduction. My name is Andy, and I own a company called Greenergy, and we make tri-fuel conversion kits for gas generators. And I've been getting a lot of requests for tri-fuel kits on other brands besides Hondas. We mainly do Hondas, but we decided to branch out and do other brands as well, and I'm working on that. So the second most popular request I get is, of course, Predator generators, and this is the obvious reason why I have these two sitting in front of me. So we're going to kind of dive deep and see up close the difference between these two, but I can't really say which is better than the other, but we'll find out as we dig inside. Okay, first off, as I looked at the box, I've noticed that the oil door, the oil access door, we'll just pretend that's not there. We'll just so this cover here, I'm gonna turn this thing around and show you, is on this side of the generator, whereas on this unit it's actually right on the recoil start side of the generator. Second, I noticed is that right here, excuse me, the gas gauge is circular and it's more rectangular here. So as you can tell, the oil access door is facing front of the generator is on the right side of the generator on this one. And if you're facing the front side of the generator, it's on the left side of this one. So I guess we'll talk about that later, but we'll just pretend that the oil door is on the generator. But that's what I've noticed. So I've taken this door cover and tried putting it on there, and it doesn't fit. So it's actually quite different. Labels slightly larger than the other. Overall, the generator is about the same size here. The front panel, this is a non-co-minder model. The newer ones that Harbor Freight selling one now has a, okay, we're facing the front side again, and as I mentioned, this is a carbon monoxide censored generator, so there's no carbon monoxide sensor on this generator. If you walk into the Harbor Freight store, they do sell those now. So I got these before they switched them over. I believe you might find some stock currently in some Harbor Freight stores that do have the non-carbon monoxide sensor. To me, I prefer not to have them. It's just such a nuisance to have them, especially when you run these things and the wind just blows by just right and it shuts off the generator. But anyways, so we look at the front panel, and they actually look quite the same. The two wires dangling over there, it's I'll get into that a little later. That's my modification. That's not how it comes from out of the box, so it's just me. And we move over to the other one, and it's the same as well. Same 3000 running, peak 35. The little knob here is a little bit lower compared to this, as you can tell. But the switch, the plugs and everything else in the ground is the same. This has a little small screw for the battery access. This has a larger one. The wheel lock is on the side of the battery door, and this side is on the side of the battery door on the right side. And I've noticed another thing too. Now, when you run this generator, this thing kind of vibrates and it gets really annoying. But on this model, Harbor Freight seems to fix that, and it's really embedded in the wheel somehow. So as you can see, you hear that it doesn't rattle, whereas this one does, and this one doesn't. So I guess there's one improvement that I've seen on this version of the Predator 3500. Gas gauge, like I mentioned, is on same on both sides. Fuel cap is facing the left side of the generator. And we're gonna turn the generator around and open up the maintenance door covers, see what's inside. All right, I got both the door covers popped off. We'll start with the standard Predator 3500. That's most common. Take this door off out of the way. So the newer one's got this, of course, this charcoal filter. So this is what it looks like. This is right now. This is just my modifications for the tri-fuel kit. We'll get into that a little bit, and we'll go ahead and pop off this door and we compare two on side by side. As you know, this is quite different. So it has a different valve cover, airbox, etc., etc. It doesn't have that middle part like this. So I'm gonna back up here, and I'll show you what's the difference. This feels like it has more space on the inside to work with. This side has the oil fill neck right here. This side does not. Obviously, is on the opposite side of the generator. So you don't do your oil changes on this side, you do it on the other side. And the air box is quite interesting. So you have the air filter element here. There's this long tube that goes around into this, looks like this resonator chamber. So you got this long air intake system, and I believe the reason why they've done that is to muffle out the intake noise on this generator. I'm not sure exactly why they've done that, but this is almost a resonator box, which dampens the sound. I'm not sure why they've done that, but this, I guess, is much easier to get to. The other side is a little bit hard to pop off, but I'll turn it around and I'll show you where you can change the oil on it here. Okay, so get the oil cover off. So here's the oil fill neck. They give you this tube where you just tilt the generator, so you pull it towards you and you can, I guess, dump the oil out. And if you get any oil in there, it's going to be a huge mess. So I guess that's why they give you this. But there's the fill neck. It's on this side of the generator. And I'll show you the back side of this generator. It's a little bit different. Turn this around. I'm trying to do this all one-handed. So I'll back up here. That's my exhaust mod on that, so just ignore that. So this is more towards the center, and that's off on the side over here. To be honest, I think this is a little bit more of a better design compared to that. I haven't ran this on gasoline yet. Maybe second or third part of this video I could do that and and show you, do maybe like a decibel test to see which one's louder, but I may not do that because it's usually pretty close to the specs on the box, and for every other YouTuber that's done tests and so forth, it's always 95% of the time it's pretty close to what the factory specs has states. So for me to do a video of it, it's kind of like just showcasing what's to be expected. But I haven't yet found a video or much of any information pointing out difference between amongst the two generators, but supposedly the specs and engine sides are the same. In part 2 of this video, I'll probably compare it side by side with the two boxes that come in these two generators and show you case of specs of this generator. But what I have noticed is that, I'll show you, I have other generators here in this back office that I have that torn apart to do development on the tri-fuel kit. So, well, that's about it of what I can point out visually on what's the difference amongst the two. Maybe I'll get a little bit more in depth with this little inverter unit in the back, but it may be the same as this one, so it's maybe no point of doing it. So what I have noticed is that I do have a Champion 4500 inverter generator, and this looks familiar to that engine setup in that generator. This looks very similar to a Honda EU3000 IS. So where the airbox sits, where the valve cover sits and everything is very similar to the IS300, and it's very similar to the Generac IQ 3500. So if you see here, the airbox, location of the carb, oil fill neck, and the valve cover. And here's the exhaust. This is very similar setup to this. I believe they all come out from the same Chinese factory. They're all private labeled, and they just have a slightly different outer casing. So these, so the brands can differentiate for one from another, but internally they're about the same. And I do have, I'm working on this as well, being torn apart. This is being torn apart as well, and that amongst the two Yamahas I have over there and so forth. So all right, so a little bit about this kit. This is just a mock-up right here. So what I'm trying to do is have a drill-free tri-fuel fuel conversion kit, and a lot of folks just would like to have a nice kit where they can just bolt everything on without having to worry about cutting or drilling the generator. And I wouldn't say that I made kits where it's completely drill-free and so forth. I just try to find ways to see if there's any places where I can have a kit where it's non-intrusive. And when I made this kit, I realized that the old door cover here is probably the best place for me to mount this kit without being intrusive. Because you buy a nice generator, and I know folks saying, "Hey, I don't want to be drilling holes in my generator." I can understand, and so forth. So this is where the quick connect connects to the regulator and propane setup. So, and this all, if you want to revert this back to factory and so forth, or bring it in for service and bring it back to the store, if you want to return it, you can take everything off. It's a like I said, it's a non-intrusive kit. This also does natural gas, and I know I had one other customer ask me, can this still be ran on gasoline? Yes, you can still use gasoline. It's the reason why we call it a tri-fuel kit. You can use 3 different fuels on this. So to switch between natural gas and propane, you just pop this hose off, and in here there's a brass screw, and there I call it the jet orifice. So you can remove that and screw in a different orifice for natural gas or propane. This sets out right out of the box, set up for propane. I don't have, at the moment, I haven't mocked up a kit for this one. Things are slow on the manufacturing side. It took me forever to get parts for this, get parts for that, and get parts for this. It's just everything is just slow due to the supply issues and so forth. But these all use pre-existing screw locations, so there's no there's no cutting, modifications, or anything to be needed to be done on this generator. Just all bolts on, and it just looks a lot nicer. This is going to get powder coated black and so forth. So, and another feature that I've done with this generator is that this is a fuel rundown switch. So this gets wired up to a fuel cutoff switch, and allows you to allows the generator to run its fuel out. So instead of going in here and draining out the carburetor and so forth, you can actually switch this to off, because behind this knob it does two things. One, it mechanically cuts off fuel, and two, if you notice, you hear a click. Let me do it for you again. That's a mechanical switch, and it cuts off power to the ignition system. So as the generator is running, and to shut off the generator, you got to turn it off. It just kills the generator. So whatever fuel is left in the fuel system just lingers in there. And for you to, two things you got to do to get fuel out is either run the gas tank empty, or just remove the screw in the float bowl here and allow fuel to drain out on here. But for this switch mod, it just you don't have to splice anything. This is all plug in. So behind there, I'll show the second part of this video. What if I do make an install video, I'll show you how this is all wired up. You don't have to cut any wires, anything like that. It uses an existing harness. You just plug it in. And so when the generator's running, let's say it's running on gasoline, you are using gasoline, you just switch this to off. Mechanically, it shuts off the fuel flow going to the carburetor. So there's no more fuel going to the carburetor, but the generator is still running. It's still running because there's still fuel left in the carb, and it'll run it dry. And it'll allow it to continue running without killing the ignition system. That's the purpose of the switch over here. So, so I grabbed the switch, and here's a bracket that I made for the switch here. And just kind of, excuse me, I'm trying to do this one-handed, but it just mounts there like that. So that switch is there, and it just gets wired up there. And this switch right here is the on-off switch for the LED light here. So it's nice to have LED lighting when you're using this generator out in your backyard or powering your house or so forth during an emergency. And you're out in the dark with your flashlight trying to find a generator and trying to look at the front panel while everything is dark, with this replaceable LED bulb here. And this gets wired up. This actually gets wired up behind the panel. It's going to get tapped into your 12-volt power source here. And you can turn it on off. I was thinking about wiring it directly to the battery, and that way you don't have to have the generator running in order to have the panel have it be lighted. But I figured I'd rather not do that, because if you're moving this generator, or somebody was to come by and brush against the switch, you turn the light on, you forget about it, and you completely drain the battery. When I sell this, I do sell this kit, I'll give you the option of doing it, but I don't recommend it, just in case you forget it or something like that. I may also do other lighting around this generator, but for now, I think the front panel being lit up is a really good idea, and I'll have that for sale too with the tri-fuel kit. Just bolts on and so forth, and you can still. There's no cutting with this to mount this bracket. There's no cutting or anything like that. Just bolts on, just like so, and the two switches on the side. And I know some of the labels are getting covered. I might have to do get some decals and print out some product labels on here to label this is the engine kill switch and this is the on-off switch for the lighting. Alright guys, here I'll probably make a part 3 oh sorry, excuse me, part 2 to this video, and I'll have each of these generators sitting side by side next to 2 other generators. So this is going to be sitting next to a Champion 4500, and this is going to be sitting next to the Generac IQ 3500. Alright guys, I do appreciate you stopping by and checking out the video. If there's any comments or questions, please let me know. I apologize if I miss anything, or if you're confused about any part of my explanation. I'm not great at doing videos, but I'm doing the best I can. All right, thanks.